Imagine this. You're sitting across from an audit manager. Suit pressed. Resume printed. You've prepared. And the first question they ask is, why did you choose auditing? And you say, because I like numbers.
Oh no.
The manager writes something down, nods, moves on, and you never hear back. Not because your answer was wrong. Technically, accountants do work with numbers, but because your answer told them nothing. Today, we're fixing that. We're going through the 5 questions you will actually be asked in your first audit interview, and we're going to practice answering them in English, clearly, professionally, like someone who actually understands the job.
I wish someone had done this for me before my first interview. I genuinely didn't know what they were looking for.
Most people don't. And by the end of this episode, you will. There's one phrase, one specific phrase, that separates candidates who get a call back from candidates who don't. Now, GPA matters at the screening stage. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. But once you're in the room, this phrase works independently of your GPA. It's about something else entirely. We'll get to exactly what it is. But first, let me explain why most fresher interviews go wrong.
Why do they?
Because freshers prepare for the wrong thing. They memorize technical answers. They rehearse their GPA, their internship, their activities. But the interviewer isn't testing if you memorized the right sentences. They're testing something else.
What are they testing?
They're testing whether you understand what auditing is and whether you can communicate that understanding clearly. In English, in most international and mid-tier audit firms, that means 2 things at the same time: the right content and the right professional language. Get both right, and you get the callback.
Okay, so what are the 5 questions?
Question 1. Why did you choose auditing? Question 2. Walk me through the audit process. Question 3. What's your greatest strength and your greatest weakness? Question 4. What do you know about our firm? And question 5. Can you work overtime?
That last one sounds simple.
It's not. None of them are. Let's start with question 1.
Why did you choose auditing? This is almost always the first question, and it's not a warm-up. It's the most important question in the interview.
Really? I always thought it was just a soft opener.
That's the trap. It sounds like small talk. It's actually a diagnostic. The interviewer is asking, do you know what you're signing up for? Because audit is hard. Busy season is brutal. If your reason for being there is, I like numbers, or the salary is good, they know you won't last.
So what should the answer sound like?
It should be specific. It should connect to something real. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be an internship, a class, a person you met in the profession. The key is, it should be yours.
What's an example of a weak answer?
I chose auditing because I enjoy working with numbers, and I believe auditing is a stable career with good opportunities.
I've said something like that before.
We all have. Here's a stronger version. What drew me to auditing was my internship last year. I was working in an accounting team, very routine work, and I realized I wanted to understand the numbers at a deeper level. Auditing felt like the right path for that.
That's so much more specific.
And it's honest. That's the thing. Interviewers can tell when you're reading from a mental script. Specific answers always win.
Okay, so question 2. Walk me through the audit process. How technical does the answer need to be? Not very. They're not expecting you to explain sampling methodology. They want to see if you know the basic structure: planning, fieldwork, completion, reporting. 4 stages.
Can you say more about what to include in each one?
Keep it simple. Planning is where you understand the client. their business, their risks. Fieldwork is where you do the actual testing. You check the numbers, you look for errors. Completion is where you wrap up, review everything, clear your queries. Reporting is where the opinion goes out. That's the audit report.
Is that enough?
More than enough for a fresher interview. But here's the thing most freshers completely miss. The interviewer isn't just testing if you know the 4 stages. They're also testing how you explain them. Can you explain a technical concept clearly, in plain English, to someone who might not be an accountant? That's a core audit skill.
Because auditors have to explain things to clients all the time.
Exactly. So your answer to question 2 is actually a mini demonstration of that skill. Keep it simple, keep it clear. Don't use jargon without explaining it.
Okay, so we've covered questions 1 and 2. The why auditing question. Be specific, be real, connect it to something you've actually experienced. The audit process question. Keep it to the 4 stages. And remember that how you explain it matters as much as what you say.
We've got 3 more to go.
And the best part is coming up. We're going to do a full mock interview. I'll play the interviewer, you'll play the candidate. We'll go through it once with weaker answers, and then we'll replay it with stronger ones.
So you get to be the scary audit manager?
I've done a few interviews in my time. If you're finding this useful, please subscribe. It genuinely helps the show reach more people. And drop a comment below. What's the question you find hardest to answer in English in an interview? We'll read every one.
Okay, questions 3, 4, and 5.
Question 3. What's your greatest strength and your greatest weakness? Now, this is actually where it gets really practical, because this question has a right answer and a wrong answer, and the wrong answer is very predictable.
I'm a perfectionist.
Every interviewer has heard that 3,000 times. It doesn't work because everyone knows it's not a real weakness. It's a strength in disguise.
So what's the right approach?
2 parts. For your strength, be specific. Don't just say attention to detail. Give an example. I notice errors that other people miss. During my internship, I caught a double-counted expense that had been in the books for 3 months. Something like that. For your weakness, be honest. Pick something real, something that actually affects your work. But then show what you're doing about it.
And that's where "I'm actively working on" comes in.
Exactly. That phrase does 2 things at once. It admits a real weakness, so the interviewer trusts you. And it signals that you're growing, so they're not scared of the weakness. Okay, question 4. What do you know about our firm? How do most freshers mess this one up? They don't research at all. They show up and say, I know you're one of the top firms and I'd love to grow here. That's saying nothing. The interviewer is testing whether you're serious about this specific opportunity, or whether you're applying to everyone at once, which most freshers are. Right, and there's nothing wrong with applying broadly, but you don't want to show that. You want to show that this particular firm is a genuine choice. So what should you research? 3 things. 1. What industries do they audit? Banking, manufacturing, real estate. 2. Any recent news? A new partnership? A new office? A big client? 3. Anything specific about their culture or their approach that matches your own values. And you work that into the answer? You work in at least one specific detail. That's the signal. Let's actually do the mock interview now. I'll be the audit manager. You be the candidate. First pass, the weak answers. Then we'll rebuild them. Workplace scenario. Your first audit interview. Weak pass versus strong pass. Setting, first round screening interview at a mid-tier audit firm, Ho Chi Minh City office. The audit manager, Alex, is conducting the interview. The candidate, Nung, is a fresh accounting graduate with 1 short internship.
Week pass. Thanks for coming in. Can you start by telling me, why did you choose auditing?
I chose auditing because I enjoy working with numbers and I believe it's a stable career with good opportunities for growth.
I see. Can you walk me through the audit process?
Yes, an audit has several stages. First, the auditor collects information about the company. Then they check the financial statements. And then they write a report.
What's your greatest weakness?
I think my weakness is that I'm a perfectionist. I sometimes spend too much time making sure everything is exactly right.
What do you know about our firm?
I know that your firm is one of the well-known firms in Vietnam, and I would like to have the opportunity to learn and grow here.
Strong pass. Thanks for coming in. Why did you choose auditing?
What drew me to auditing was actually my internship last year. I was in an accounting team doing month-end close, and I realized I was more curious about why the numbers looked the way they did than about recording them. I started asking more questions than my role required, and that's when I understood auditing was where I wanted to be.
Good. Can you walk me through the audit process?
Sure. I'd break it into 4 stages. Planning is where we understand the client, their business model, where the risks are. Fieldwork is where the actual testing happens, verifying figures, checking supporting documents. Completion is where we wrap up the open points and make sure everything is reviewed. And then reporting is the opinion, the audit report that goes out to shareholders.
What's your greatest weakness?
Honestly, I'd say I'm actively working on explaining things more concisely. When I understand something technical, I tend to over-explain. I give more context than the other person needs. I've been practicing by summarizing my work in 2 or 3 sentences max before I go into detail.
What do you know about our firm?
I know you're a mid-tier firm with a strong focus on the manufacturing and trading sectors. I also saw that you recently expanded your advisory team, which was interesting to me because I'd like to eventually move beyond pure audit into broader advisory work.
Okay, so out of the role play now. What's the biggest difference between those 2 passes?
The strong version is specific everywhere. The weak version is just general.
Exactly. I enjoy numbers tells the interviewer nothing. I was more curious about why the numbers looked the way they did. That's a real insight. It tells them you think like an auditor.
And the weakness answer was so different. I'm a perfectionist versus I'm actively working on explaining things concisely.
One is a script. The other is a person. And I can coach a person. I can't do anything with a script. Question 5. Can you work overtime? Now, this is the question most freshers treat as a simple yes or no. And technically, it is. But what's really being tested here is something else.
What do they actually want to know?
They want to know if you understand what audit actually looks like. Specifically, busy season. Every audit firm has one, the weeks or months when multiple clients hit their financial year end at the same time. The exact timing depends on where you are. Some markets, it's January through March. Others, it's July through September. But wherever you are, it's the same story. Long hours, weekend work, multiple deadlines colliding. If you say, yes, I can work overtime without showing that you know what that means, it sounds like you've never thought about it.
So they want you to show you understand busy season?
Exactly. Not that you love it. Nobody loves it. But that you understand it. You've prepared for it mentally, and you're not going to resign after your first peak period.
So how do you answer?
Something like this. I understand this is a deadline-driven environment, especially during peak periods, and I'm comfortable with that. I've spoken to people in the profession, and I have a realistic picture of what busy season involves. I'm ready for it.
That's so much more convincing than just yes.
Because it tells them 3 things. 1, you've done your research. 2, you're not naive about the workload. 3, you're still saying yes.
Before we move on, let's stop here for a second, because I think people underestimate how much of this is actually about language, not just content.
That's exactly right. And this applies to anyone interviewing in a language that isn't their first. Because the interview isn't just testing your auditing knowledge. It's also testing whether you can communicate professionally in English, which, in any international audit office where the working language is English, is itself a core job requirement. The interview is already a demonstration of the skill the role requires.
So, the interview is already the job.
From the moment you walk in. That's why the language matters as much as the content. I'm actively working on versus I'm bad at. Same truth, completely different impression. So,
Okay, so you promised us a phrase at the beginning of the episode, the phrase that separates callbacks from rejections.
Right. So this is not a magic phrase. It won't rescue a bad interview. But if your interview has gone well, this phrase signals to the interviewer that you're serious, that you've done your homework, and that you're choosing them specifically.
What is it?
What I found particularly interesting about your firm specifically is, and then you give one real detail, something you actually researched. Not you're a top firm, not I've heard good things. A specific detail, a sector they specialize in, a recent development, something about their team or their values.
Because it proves you actually looked.
And it proves you're not going to join them and leave in 6 months because you picked the wrong firm. Interviewers worry about that, especially with freshers.
This is not a technique. It's just being honest about why you're there.
exactly. Auditing is not an accounting role. It's not a finance role. It's not even a numbers role in the way people think.
What is it then?
It's about forming an independent opinion on whether those financial statements give a true and fair view, and communicating that opinion clearly, professionally, and in language that the client, the regulator, and the shareholder can all rely on.
When you put it that way, the whole interview makes sense. Every question is testing whether you can communicate.
Every single one.
3 things to take away from today. First, every interview question has a real intent behind it. Why auditing is testing whether you understand the profession. Audit process is testing whether you can explain clearly. Strengths and weaknesses is testing your self-awareness. What do you know about us is testing how serious you are. And can you work overtime is testing whether you know what you're getting into. Know the intent and you know how to answer. Second, the phrase, I'm actively working on, for your weakness question. Not, I'm bad at, that sounds defeated. Not, I'm a perfectionist, that sounds dishonest. I'm actively working on, that's professional, honest, and forward-looking. Use it. Third, before your next interview, research one specific thing about the firm. One thing. Sector they focus on. A recent development. Something about their culture. Then say it. What I found particularly interesting about your firm specifically is, that's the phrase that gets callbacks. Not because it's impressive, because it's real.
If you've ever had an interview where a question completely threw you, drop it in the comments below. What did they ask? What did you wish you'd said? We'd love to hear it, and we might cover it in a future episode. Thanks for listening to The Balance Sheet Guy. We'll see you next time.
See you then.
Key phrases used. What drew me to? Connects motivation to a real experience. Sounds natural, not rehearsed. I'd break it into 4 stages. Frames the answer before delivering it. Shows structured thinking. I'm actively working on. Honest weakness framing that signals self-awareness and growth. What I found particularly interesting about your firm is signals genuine research, not generic flattery.